mental health issues look like all of us on this call tonight, right? Is anxiety is the most prevalent, depression is a close second, drinking more than you should is a close third. And I think when people understand we're not talking about severe psychiatric issues, we're talking about normal life stuff that, and as I often say, we live long enough and we go through enough life experiences, every single one of us can deal with a mental health issue. The vast majority of us aren't going to come see someone like me or one of my clinicians because most of us figure it out on our own. And so when people can get that and get up, and so many, of course, downsides of COVID, but I think there's so many interesting gifts that we're getting from this too. And one of it is, I think most people are getting, wow, I get what this kind of psychological health or mental health thing means, right? That it doesn't mean I'm crazy or going to go do something wild and, kind of the stereotypes that we have with mental health issues. People get, oh, this is just part of, as I would say, the Buddha says, suffering is part of the human condition.
Well, and I think there's going to be these waves that go through, so I think physical health, everyone's kind of cool with that now, talking about the importance of physical health and, ergonomics and stuff like that. And now it's going to take a while for mental health to get the same level of acceptance as physical health.
Mm-hmm.
And, I could actually see at some point, if we don't blow ourselves up beforehand, to have spiritual health, like getting all that alignment around and the whole, but it's kind of too much to grab our hands around all at once.
Yeah, it really is. And the World Health Organization, so I laugh now because everybody knows who the World Health Organization is now, but for years I've shared this definition of health from the World Health Organization that defines health as being a state of overall physical, emotional, social, and spiritual well-being. Mm-hmm. And we don't have mental health separate from physical health. Every drop of data, research, anecdotal experience, everything will say we can't separate those out. They're one and the same. And our emotional health is just one part of this overall entity that includes, and I think COVID, we think about, spiritual, meaning and purpose is how I define it. Sometimes people react to spiritual and I'll say it's about meaning and purpose. And so figure out what that is. And I think it's so accentuated for people now, the importance of this. And people get, this matters. If we don't have meaning and purpose, our physical health is pretty crummy. We don't sleep, we don't eat, we feel crummy physically. And
it's going to be interesting to see what stories accumulate around this, because my printer was going in the background printing some of those resources that I think I just doubled my office expenses printing. But what? Wondering when the timing has to be right. Like years ago, I was working for a company in late 70s, early 80s on wellness programs that was incorporating all those kinds of things. But trying to move it into the corporations, it was too much, too big a piece to chew off on. But what did start to make sense is when people were able to tell stories about it, right? Because it's not about all the lists and facts and things like that. It's when people hear a story and can relate to it, that they kind of go, right? Because in the absence of those stories, the vacuum, they'll bring in the stories of all the severe issues as opposed to everyday ones that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because it resonates. I so believe in just storytelling as an essential piece of our culture and societies and our communities, and people get it in a different way. I see some questions that Shelley has.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Shelley wants to. Shelley, do you want to?
Hi, I'll unmute my mic. I just have a question around, even for leaders or officers of organizations, if there's a real understanding of people's mental well-being and mental health and the different stages of how even they as officers or leaders contribute to either potential risks or challenges with people's mental well-being. And I'll use an example of, when an organization has a feedback loop and not everybody follows that feedback loop the same way, you're actually introducing potential mental well-being challenges due to your process of feedback.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Shelley, and I feel like I don't have an easy answer to this. It's every process. It's every system, process, approach, interaction that we have in a workplace that contributes to what psychological health and safety is. You know, and I think your question of who holds these leaders accountable, I mean, here's a reality. We don't have top-down support. It's an uphill battle. Like it just is. That's unfortunately the reality, and there isn't any magic wand that can help that. Yeah, I feel like I'm not really answering your question, but I feel like it's more of a commentary, really, isn't it?
You need the sponsorship, don't you?
And it's also about like really knowing that the value of human beingness in organizations is, because we realize that you have a business to run, or we have businesses to run, everybody does, and there's a profit, yet the risk and reward of mental well-being and challenges to employee mental well-being and mental health maybe isn't fully understood at this time, because there is such high risk if you're giving someone feedback, or you're where there's a situation where maybe they need some more support and they don't feel like they have it, and so there's just higher impact.
Yeah, and you know what I'll say to organizations, we can do things like performance manage in a psychologically healthy and safe way. And the reality is we're all learning, we're all growing, we all mess up. We're not going to all do it perfectly. And I think when we can implement, you know, supportive performance management is what I talk about. And so all it means is, I mean, none of us are perfect. I don't know, bring me one perfect person and we got a unicorn somewhere, right? But it's just the state of how humans are. And you know, we think, especially the last 2 months, I've kept saying, I think every corporate talk I've done, I've just said, nobody is showing up as their best selves, like myself included. None of us are, because life is upside down. Life is upside down. Yeah. And so we can do one of two things. We can either be, you know, antagonistic about it and performance manage it in a heavy way and play that heavy, or we can strive toward understanding and do our best to supportively performance manage and find ways that can help people align. And it's really about, you know, how can we align in a way that my expectations as a leader match what you're able to do? And we can do that in really, really, really healthy ways.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think most organizations that I've worked in Calgary or in Alberta really set to do that. And I just think it's somehow making sure that each message is aligned to what the organization wants the message to be. Like, so it's that communication. How is the message being communicated, and how are people being supported in order to learn effectively at work about these things that could potentially impact their mental well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Hi.
There we go.
Communication solves all, Shelley.
Oh, everybody, thank you. I hope everybody enjoyed their conversations. We feel free to share in the chat. We won't be able to necessarily comment on them, but feel free to share the key lessons learned or key themes that came out for you in those small group conversations. So in closing, just wanted to say that, boy, we need workplace conditions that foster the factors of success, and OD practitioners are perfectly poised to support healthy, vibrant, thriving organizations in the midst of this current COVID-19 and as we emerge into a new normal. And by leading with compassion, wisdom, integrity, love, and learning, and by advancing psychological health and safety and resilience in the workplace, we can foster fabulous workplaces and fabulous organizations and enjoy the outcomes and experiences of our human potential and peak performance. So my invitation to you is that if you would like to collaborate on fostering fabulous workplaces, I absolutely invite you to connect with me. Let's continue this conversation as a community and really explore our possibilities for the future.
Great.
Thank you.